The whole creation is coming out of the Creator, and the process is to be properly understood. Unless the scriptures make us understand the process properly, we will understand it in a wrong way. If we understand that the Creator is making the creation something outside himself, just as a carpenter is making a chair, or a pot maker making a pot, or a house builder building a house, then we have a mistaken idea of creation. Because creation is never done outside himself. Then it cannot be called creation. Then it can be called only construction. If a building is being constructed, can you call that the masons are creating a house? No, you call it they are constructing or building. Building is different from creation. Builders are different from creators. So the process of creation should be understood different from construction. The process of creation should be differently understood from construction. Construction is something objective. Creation is something subjective. I'll give you an example. If you want to build a big building in an empty space, what do you do first? What is it that you are doing? Do you want an engineer or a mason? You want an engineer, not a mason. What's the difference between engineer and a mason? An engineer is the one who builds the house in his mind with all the details, with every hall, every window, every pillar. First he builds the whole house in his mind and then brings it upon paper as a draft of the plan. And then he invites masons and carpenters. Then the rest of the work is construction and not creation. The first step of the work which was done in his mind is the only thing that can be called creation. So first he created the building in his mind, and then there is the process of externalization. Just as we have the externalization of the hierarchy, it's a peculiar process. So how can the master represent this? In what allegory he represents this? Through what symbol he should make us understand? When he remembers that the scriptures are properly understood by esoteric students, how should he construct the scripture about creation? Even then we are wrongly understanding sometimes, because though we belong to an esoteric school, we have not yet entered into the art of esotericism. When we study the first sentence in the Old Testament, darkness filled the deep, we understand it in an objective way. Thoroughly wrong. We imagine that there is big space where there was darkness. And then we go to the next sentence. God said, let there be light. And there was light. We understand that it is a story of a madman, because we are yet children to approach such sentences. We are too immature to understand such sentences. Suppose your grandson comes to you and asks you, grandfather, how can I grow my beard? And how can I shave myself like you? What is your answer? Boy, better wait. You cannot make him grow his beard at that age. Similarly, a student of esoteric school cannot come to understand the esotericism of a sentence of any scripture until he or she grows into the maturity to understand it. And we should neither be ashamed of this fact nor underestimate these sentences of the scriptures. Here is a method. He says, the Creator wanted to speak out, and then he spoke out. So, he spoke out the whole creation into space, time, shape, number, name, etc. Just as we are speaking. Before speaking, he had all this as a sentence in his mind. So, let this be called the fourth stage of his utterance. Let the previous one be called the third stage of utterance. For example, I say, this is a chalk. It is a sentence. A sentence spoken out vocally. It is an objective vocal sentence and also English sentence. Similarly, a German fellow will have a German sentence. A French fellow will have a French sentence. An Indian fellow will have an Indian sentence. So it is a language sentence. So we can call it objective vocal language sentence. Language, vocal language sentence. Vocal. So the whole creation is in that state when it is perfected and came out. Before I spoke out, this is a chalk, a piece of chalk. I should speak it in my mind first. So that is the third stage of sentence. It can be called objective language thought sentence. The difference between the fourth utterance and the third stage of utterance is, in the fourth stage it was spoken out. In the third stage, the same sentence is spoken in, not out. Similarly, the whole creation exists in the mind of the creator with all its details of space, time, shape, number, name, etc. This is called the third stage of utterance. Now let us come to the chalk piece. So before I uttered, this is a piece of chalk, I should utter in my mind the same sentence. This is a piece of chalk. Before I utter like that, in English, I should have a thought sentence which is not yet translated into English. It is the second stage of utterance. So this sentence is common to a German fellow, English fellow, or an Indian fellow, because the English fellow had the thought sentence not yet translated into English. The German fellow had the thought sentence not yet translated into his German. The Indian fellow has the same thought sentence not yet translated into his Indian language. So all of them have the same sentence in their thought. So this is the second stage of utterance. Now you can understand, while passing from the second to the third stage of utterance, humanity has undergone a limitation of language, which is expressed as the curse of the Babel Tower. So, while we are passing from the second to the third stage of utterance, we received the curse at the Babel Tower. Now, if you meditate upon this thought, you can understand the significance of what the curse of Babel is. So, this is a thought sentence which is not yet translated into language. And before this thought sentence, where was the thought? Here the thought is in your mind. Before the thought is in your mind, where was the thought? No. After it started, it comes to the instruments of the mind. Still, there is no idea that such a thought should come to our mind. For example, I will ask you, is it yours? Before I wanted to ask you, the thought was not there in my mind. Where was it? Here, the author of the scriptures helps us. Otherwise, we cannot be esoteric students without the help of the... From the time thought came to our mind, we know the thought is in our mind. And we think that the thought belongs to ourselves. But before it came to our mind, where was it? To whom it belonged? The fact is, it was not there. But it was there. We should understand this. This is the difficult part of understanding, and the author of the scripture should make us understand this. There is a lump of sugar. When we place it in water, dissolved, is the sugar existing or not existing? Existing. Where is it? In the water. Yes, but is the crystal of sugar existing or not? No. When it comes out again, does it come as sugar crystal or something else? Is the shape of the sugar crystal constant or not? A sugar crystal can never be like a salt crystal. A salt crystal can never be in the shape of ice block. Every substance has its own shape of the crystal, into which it crystallizes. Now tell me, is the crystal existing or not when the sugar is dissolved in water? Yes, is the possibility existing or not? Is the possibility real crystal, original crystal, or the physical crystal, original crystal? Which is original? Yes, you can change the name. Which is the original? Which is the model and which is the copy? Yes, is the possibility original or the sugar crystal original? To your mind, not to my mind. Because esoteric study is not religious preaching. Truth should suggest to your mind, not to my mind. And I should not enforce it upon your mind. Think for a moment whether the possibility is the original or the physical sugar crystal is the original. Yes. So, there was the crystal. The crystal was with water. The crystal was water. So, first there was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Now you approach the sentence once again. You will understand the first stage of utterance. The idea was with the utterer. But before that, the idea was the utterer himself. Do you accept it? The idea was the utterer. Then the idea was with the utterer. Then the idea came out objectively. And then it is spoke out objectively. 4 stages of utterance. And here, this is compared with a ocean upon which Vishnu was sleeping. With sleeping, yes, slopping. The waves are coming and going. Before the wave came out of the ocean, where was the wave? It was in the ocean. Before that, it was the ocean. That's why he is said to be sleeping on the ocean with many waves called the waves of creation. If each wave is taken as an object of esoteric study, you will be able to understand what is the law of vibration. Do you know where the law of vibration is described? Do you remember in the books of Alice J. Bailey, the law of vibration is given? Yes, yes. Very, very subtle law. It proves us that there is a fall and a rise, a maximum point, and they are receding. So each creation is a wave having all these stages. And each creation is an utterance. The whole thing is understood in terms of a sentence. Now read the sentences. God said, let there be light. There is light. Now, at least you feel that you are trying to understand it. Previously, you have to believe that it was only an imagination. As you begin to enter into esoteric study, you will begin to understand the sentence of the scripture. God said, let there be light. There was the light. God has blown air into the nostrils of man, and man breathed. What does it mean? What is the capacity to breathe? Life. What is life? We are changing words. It is the capacity of the total to pulsate into a part of the total. Unless space permits us to take in air, unless there is little space separated in the form of our lungs and nostrils, unless the total space permits this little space to breathe in, there is no respiration. Now, can you begin to believe that the total space allowed us to breathe? That is what is called God breathed air into the nostrils of man. You have to meditate upon the idea how respiration started to you, then the sentence will be understood. So, for such reasons, the Creator is said to have four faces. And the word that is passing through the four faces is said to be his wife. Her name is Saraswati. She is dancing on his four tongues. Not only that, meditate for a while how you are speaking out. Same is the process that is taking place. The idea is starting from you. It is coming out objectively, and then you are expressing out in the form of a sentence. And the sentence contains same idea. It was yourself at first. Then it was with you. And it came out of you. And you spoke it out. These are called the four stages of utterance, without which neither the Creator could create, nor you can speak even a single word or a sentence. So, the word is the capability of the utterer. The capability started as a thought. Thought created the energy channel of utterance. At first thought came out, and then it made a channel. Through the channel, force or energy has flown out. Now read the sentence once again, that energy follows thought. These are sentences for meditation, not for understanding. We should differentiate between books of wisdom and books of knowledge. All the textbooks of the universities we see, for example, chemistry, physics, engineering, medicine, etc., they are to understand and put into practice. Whereas the scriptures are books of wisdom, that is to meditate and become that. While you are meditating it, you will be transformed into the object of meditation. Just as an iron piece touched by a magnet is transformed into a magnet. These sentences of meditation, which are taken from the scriptures, are from the books like the books of the Tibetan. There is nothing to understand in it. There is everything to meditate, and you have to become that. This is what is called transformation. So, previously you were something else. After reading these sentences, you must become something different. This is the purpose of these books. If you approach these books thinking that they contain a lot of knowledge to understand, you will be thoroughly disappointed, because your head begins to reel as you read the sentences. That is what happens when you begin to read Cosmic Fire, etc. The trouble is, we are reading them to understand. Same thing with every sentence of the Secret Doctrine of Blavatsky. You should read them not to understand, not to remember, or not to possess a handful of facts and put them in your bag. Because the moment we try to do it, the bottom of our bag will be torn open. Once again, we will stand as the same fellows having nothing in our bag. So we should know how to approach these books. Don't try to remember anything of these books. Begin to live in those books. And unless you lose yourself into these books, having no other work and no other activity in life, unless you thoroughly give yourself up to these books, unless you sacrifice your total lifespan and existence into these books, it is a total time waste to read these books. So it is not to take something from those books, but it is to give yourself up permanently to those books, unless you believe that those books are more valuable than yourself. As long as you try to get benefited out of those books, That means you are believing that you are more valuable than those books. It is not at all possible to understand these books as long as we think like that. So sometime in our life we should decide if we are to be sold away to these books without any return to our own life, or permanently close the books and come away into the world to lead a normal life, or close the books, come away from them permanently to live our own life. A third attempt is a time waste. Either we should live to eat, drink and dance and play sex and sleep, or we should sell away ourselves permanently to these books. If we are on the borders, we will be wasting all our time and energy, falsely calling ourselves students of esoteric schools. This is an undeniable truth about these books. Remember, the Tibetan books also belong to such a category. Now let us come to Brahma's wife Saraswati once again. And then we go to the third, Shiva and his wife. What does this creation contain? Matter, energy and consciousness. Compare them to ice block, water and steam. Three states of the same existence. They are not three entities at all. And what is there in all these three? What name can you give to the content? You have to call it X. What does this X contain? It contains two parts. In Brahma it contains 4 parts. In Shiva it contains only 2 parts. What are they? The container and the content of this creation. What are they made up of? Imagine somewhere in the North Pole there is a container made of ice block. Fill it with water. What is the container and what is the contained? Same thing in 2 states. These two are called Shiva and his Shakti. When the whole creation goes back into the background, only these 2 fellows exist. Shiva means consciousness, Shakti means power. Of these 2 fellows, one fellow goes and disappears into the other. Power goes and disappears into consciousness. Consciousness is called the male principle and power is called the female principle. Why? Does that mean that woman is more powerful? A Roman Catholic bishop in India remarked with me, said, it is a pity that the Indians compare power with a female. He said, power is male. Then I said, when a motor car is moving, it is moving due to the power which is generated by petroleum.